What if the person you believe is unqualified is the very person chosen to lead? What if your insecurity is not a weakness, but the doorway to your purpose? Today, we're looking at the story of Moses, a man who doubted himself, ran from responsibility, and still became one of the greatest leaders in history. This is not just a Bible story. This is a story about you. Part 1. A child marked by destiny. Moses was born during a time of oppression. The Israelites were enslaved in Egypt under a ruthless ruler known as Pharaoh. Pharaoh feared the growing Hebrew population and ordered that every Hebrew baby boy be killed, but Moses' mother refused to give up. She hid him for 3 months, and when she could no longer hide him, she placed him in a basket on the Nile River. What looked like abandonment was actually divine positioning. Pharaoh's daughter found him, and the boy who was supposed to die grew up in the palace. Part 2. The identity struggle. Moses had everything: education, power, privilege, but inside, he knew he was Hebrew. He lived between two worlds. One day, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Anger took over. He killed the Egyptian and hid the body. But his action was discovered, and just like that, the prince became a fugitive. He ran into the wilderness, from palace luxury to desert survival. Sometimes your biggest mistake becomes the path to your calling. Part 3. 40 years in the desert in Midian. Moses became a shepherd. 40 years passed. 40, no spotlight, no recognition, no leadership title. Just sheep and sand. It probably felt like failure, but the desert was shaping him. You don't learn patience in a palace. You learn it in the wilderness. God often prepares leaders in hidden places. Part 4. The burning bush. One day, everything changed. Moses saw a bush on fire, but it wasn't burning up from the flames. God called his name. Moses. God told him, "I have seen the suffering of my people. I am sending you to Pharaoh." But Moses didn't respond with confidence. He said, "Who am I?" And then he added, "I am slow of speech and tongue." He believed his weakness disqualified him. But God asked a powerful question: who made man's mouth? In other words, if I created you, don't you think I know your limitations? Part 5. Stepping into the call. Moses still hesitated, but eventually he obeyed. He returned to Egypt, the place he once ran from. He stood before Pharaoh and declared, "Let my people go." It took 10 devastating plagues. It took courage. It took persistence. But finally, Pharaoh released the Israelites. The reluctant shepherd had become a bold leader. Part 6. The Red Sea. Meant freedom didn't come easy. As the Israelites escaped, Pharaoh changed his mind and sent his army after them. The people panicked. They were trapped. Sea in front, army behind. And they blamed Moses. Leadership often means standing firm when others are afraid. Moses said, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." He lifted his staff, the Red Sea parted, and millions walked through on dry ground. The man who once doubted his voice was now leading a nation through a miracle. Part 7. Growth through pressure. The wilderness journey wasn't easy. The people complained about food. They complained about water. They even wanted to return to slavery, but Moses kept going. He met with God on Mount Sinai. He received the 10 Commandments. He learned that leadership isn't about power, it's about presence. He once said, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us." That's growth. The insecure man became a man intimate with God. Part 8. The final lesson. Moses led the Israelites for 40 years. Though he would not enter the promised land himself, he fulfilled his assignment. And that's the key. Success is not about comfort. It's about obedience. Moses' story teaches us, your weakness does not cancel your purpose. Your past mistakes don't define your future. The desert is preparation, not punishment. God uses ordinary people for extraordinary missions. closing scene, music builds. Sunrise over mountains, Moses started as a hidden baby in a basket. He became a prince, then a fugitive, then a shepherd, then a leader. Not because he was perfect, but because he said yes. Narrator's strong closing. If you feel unqualified, if you feel forgotten, if you feel stuck in your own desert, remember Moses. The stammer didn't stop him. The fear didn't stop him. The past didn't stop him. And your weakness won't stop you either, because sometimes the person who feels least ready is the one God is most ready to use.